My granddaughter stole my credit card, so I made sure she couldn't move into her new home. They say the older you get, the wiser you become. But I learned the hard way that age don't always protect you from betrayal, especially when it's coming from your own blood. My name's Dorothy Mae. I'm 62 years old, and I live in Mobile, Alabama. I've raised 3 kids, buried a husband, and thought I'd seen it all, until my granddaughter taught me that even family can lie straight to your face with a smile. If this story resonated with your soul, hit the subscribe button and let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Which country you're listening from. I leaned back in my recliner, the creak of its springs blending with the hum of the evening news on the TV. The living room smelled of lemon polish and the faint sweetness of the peach cobbler I'd baked earlier. My eyes drifted to the photo on the mantle. Tiana at 6, gap-toothed and grinning, holding my hand at the county fair. That girl was my heart. So when she showed up at my doorstep 6 months ago, suitcase in hand, tears streaking her face, I didn't hesitate to open my door. "Big Mama, I just need a reset," she'd said, her voice trembling like a leaf in a storm. I hugged her tight, feeling her shake against me, and promised she'd always have a home here. Tiana was 24 now, all grown up, but still my baby girl. She'd been through a nasty breakup, the kind that leaves you hollowed out, and I figured she just needed time to find her footing. At first, she was a blessing. She'd wake up early, frying bacon and eggs, filling the house with the kind of warmth I hadn't felt since my husband, Earl, passed. "Big Mama, you always made me feel safe," she said one morning, wrapping her arms around me while I stirred grits on the stove. Her words were like honey, sweet and soothing, and I believed every one of them. I didn't think twice about giving her the spare room or letting her borrow my old Buick to run errands. Family takes care of family. That's how I was raised. But then the first red flag waved, subtle at first, like a whisper you almost miss. I was balancing my checkbook at the dining table, the one Earl carved his initials into before we got married, when I noticed it. My credit card statement had charges I didn't recognize. A gas station in Atlanta, $47.32. A hotel in Savannah, $219.89. I hadn't left Mobile in months, not since my last doctor's appointment for my knee. I squinted at the numbers, my glasses slipping down my nose, and a knot tightened in my stomach. My memory ain't what it used to be, but I wasn't that far gone. I double-checked the dates. The charges were recent, all from the past 2 weeks. I sat there, pen frozen in my hand, trying to make sense of it. Maybe I'd ordered something online and forgotten. Maybe I'd lent the card to one of my kids and didn't recall. But no, my kids were grown, living their own lives. Marcus in Birmingham, Sheila in Houston, and Ray deployed overseas. None of them had asked for money in years. My mind flickered to Tiana, but I shoved the thought away. Not my Tiana. Not the girl who'd curl up on my couch as a kid, watching reruns of Good Times and begging for one more slice of sweet potato pie. Still, that gut feeling. The one that had warned me when Earl's heart started failing. The one that told me to lock the doors when that strange car lingered outside years ago. It was stirring. I called the bank, my fingers trembling as I dialed. The lady on the phone was polite but firm. "Ms. Dorothy, these charges were made in person, not online. Do you have your card with you?" I rummaged through my purse, heart pounding, and found it right where I always kept it. Or so I thought. "Everything okay, Big Mama?" Tiana's voice floated in from the hallway. She stood there in her oversized hoodie, her curls bouncing as she tilted her head, a mug of coffee in her hand. She looked so innocent, so much like the little girl in that photo, that I almost felt foolish for suspecting her. "Just some mix-up with my card," I said, forcing a smile. "You ain't been to Atlanta lately, have you?" Her eyes widened, just a fraction, before she laughed, light and easy. "Atlanta, Big Mama, you know I ain't got the gas money for that. I've been right here with you." She crossed the room, plopped onto the couch, and started scrolling on her phone like nothing was wrong. "Maybe you got hacked or something. You gotta be careful with those online stores." I nodded, wanting to believe her. She was my granddaughter, after all. I'd changed her diapers, braided her hair, prayed over her when she had pneumonia at 8. But that knot in my stomach wouldn't loosen. The next day, I checked my account again. Another charge, $89.12, at a boutique in Montgomery. My heart sank like a stone in a river. I hadn't been to Montgomery since the church retreat last summer. I decided to keep quiet, to watch. Tiana was her usual self, chatting about her job search, helping me water the azaleas out front, even singing old gospel hymns with me while we washed dishes. But I started noticing things. Her phone was always buzzing, and she'd step outside to take calls, her voice low and sharp. She'd come back smelling faintly of cigarette smoke, though she swore she didn't smoke. And once, when I went to grab a towel from her room, I saw a stack of shopping bags in the corner. Fancy names I didn't recognize, not the kind of stores we had in Mobile. Then came the moment that cracked my trust wide open. I was cleaning out the hall closet, looking for my old sewing kit, when I found one of Tiana's purses tucked behind a box of Christmas decorations. It was her favorite one, red leather with a gold clasp, the one she used to carry everywhere. I don't know why I opened it, maybe that gut feeling again. But there it was, my credit card, nestled between a tube of lip gloss and a crumpled receipt. My breath caught in my throat. I stood there, frozen, the purse heavy in my hands, as the truth settled over me like a cold fog. "Tiana," I called, my voice sharper than I meant it to be. She poked her head out of her room, phone pressed to her ear. "What's up, Big Mama?" she said, her tone casual. But I saw the flicker in her eyes, like she knew something was coming. I held up the card, my hand trembling. "Care to explain this?" She hung up her call and stepped closer, her face shifting from surprise to something softer, almost pleading. "Oh, Big Mama, I must have grabbed it by mistake. I was gonna tell you, I swear. I just borrowed it for some gas the other day. I didn't want to worry you." "Gas?" I said, my voice low, steady, though my heart was racing. "Tiana, there's charges from Atlanta, Savannah, Montgomery. You telling me you needed gas in all them places?" Her mouth opened, then closed, like a fish gasping for air. I don't know how that happened. Maybe someone stole it from me. I'll call the bank. We'll figure it out." She reached for the card, but I pulled it back, my eyes locked on hers. "Don't play me for a fool, Tiana," I said, my voice cracking with hurt. "I raised you better than this." "Big Mama, I wouldn't," she started, but I cut her off. "Don't, just don't." I turned away, clutching the card, my chest tight with a mix of anger and heartbreak. I wanted to scream, to cry, to shake her until she told me the truth. But all I could do was walk back to my recliner, sink into it, and stare at that photo on the mantle, wondering where my sweet Tiana had gone. The rest of the day, she stayed in her room, the door closed, her music playing low. I didn't push her, didn't know how, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning, that whatever she was hiding was bigger than a few charges on my card. I checked my account again that night, half expecting more surprises, but it was quiet. Too quiet, like the calm before a storm. I lay awake in bed, the house creaking around me, and thought about the girl I'd raised. Tiana had always been a dreamer, always chasing something. New clothes, new friends, new plans that never quite panned out. But stealing? From me? It didn't add up. Or maybe it did, and I just didn't want to see it. I remembered a call she'd gotten a week ago, her voice hushed as she stepped onto the porch. "I'm working on it," she'd said, sharp and urgent. Working on what, and with who? By morning, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't going to let this slide. I loved Tiana, but I wasn't no fool. I'd get to the bottom of this, one way or another. I didn't know it then, but that decision would pull me into a web of lies and secrets that would make me question everything I thought I knew about family and about trust. The morning after finding my credit card in Tiana's purse, I sat in my recliner, the weight of her betrayal pressing against my chest. The house was quiet, save for the faint drip of the kitchen faucet and the occasional hum of a car passing outside. Tiana stayed in her room most of the day, her music seeping through the walls, a low thump of bass that grated on my nerves. I didn't confront her again, not yet. I'd learned long ago, raising 3 kids, that sometimes you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. So I kept my face soft, my voice steady, even as my heart ached. But inside, I was watching, waiting, piecing together the puzzle of who my granddaughter had become. By noon, Tiana emerged, all smiles, like nothing had happened. "Big Mama, you want me to make you some tea?" she called, poking her head into the living room. Her curls were pulled back in a messy bun, and she wore that same oversized hoodie, the one that made her look younger than her 24 years. "Sure, baby," I said, forcing a smile. "That'd be nice." As she shuffled to the kitchen, I slipped into my bedroom and locked the door. I pulled out my laptop, old, but it still worked, and logged into my bank account. The charges were still there: Atlanta, Savannah, Montgomery, and a new one from yesterday, $124.67 at some electronics store in Pensacola. My jaw tightened. I printed the statements, the pages spitting out slow and steady, each one a piece of evidence stacking against her. I tucked them into a folder and hid it under my mattress, right next to Earl's old Bible. Tiana knocked on my door a few minutes later, a steaming mug in her hand. "Here's your tea, Big Mama. Chamomile, just how you like it." Her eyes were bright, too bright, like she was trying to sell me something. "Thank you, sweetheart," I said, taking the mug. My hands were steady, but my mind was racing. I needed to be smart about this. I couldn't let her know I was on to her. Not yet. That afternoon, while Tiana was out running errands, I called the bank. The woman on the line, Brenda, had a voice like warm molasses, calm and patient. "Ms. Dorothy, I can freeze the account and flag those charges as fraud," she said, after I explained, keeping my voice low, like I was sharing a secret. "You want to file a report?" "Yes," I said, my throat tight. "But don't tell nobody who's using the card. Not yet." I didn't want Tiana tipped off. Not until I knew what she was really up to. Brenda promised to send me new cards and keep the account locked. When I hung up, I felt a strange mix of relief and dread, like I'd just crossed a line I couldn't uncross. Tiana came home that evening, her arms full of grocery bags, chatting about some job interview she'd had. "It's a real estate thing, Big Mama," she said, setting the bags on the counter. "The market's booming, you know. This ain't 1980 no more." She laughed, loud and carefree, like she was trying to fill the room with it. "I might even be moving out soon. Got my eye on a condo downtown. Nice place, real modern." I raised an eyebrow, stirring my tea. "A condo? That's a big step, Tiana. How you planning to pay for that?" She didn't miss a beat. "The job's got good commission, and I've been saving up." She flashed that smile, the one that used to melt my heart, but now it just made my skin prickle. "Saving up? With what money? Mine?" "That's real nice, baby," I said, keeping my tone light. "I'm proud of you." But inside, I was burning. Every word she said felt like another lie, another twist of the knife. I thought about the charges, the card in her purse, the way she'd looked at me when I confronted her, wide-eyed, innocent, like I was the one who'd lost her mind. I wanted to believe her, to hold on to the Tiana who used to draw me pictures and sing "This Little Light of Mine" in church. But that girl was slipping further away, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. Over the next few days, Tiana's talk about moving out grew louder. She'd sit at the kitchen table, scrolling through photos on her phone, showing me glossy images of a condo with sleek floors and big windows. "Look at this, Big Mama," she said one evening, her voice bubbling with excitement. "It's got a kitchen you'd love. I picked it just for you, in case you want to come bake your sweet potato pie when I move in." She grinned, leaning across the table, her eyes sparkling like she was sharing a dream. I smiled back, my lips tight. "That sounds real nice, Tiana. When you moving in?" "Soon," she said, waving a hand. Just waiting on the deposit to clear. You should come visit once I'm settled. We'll have a girls' day, just you and me." I nodded, sipping my tea to hide the storm in my chest. A deposit. The word echoed in my mind, sharp and heavy. I thought about the charges on my card, the thousands of dollars that had vanished. Was that her savings? My money funneled into some fancy condo she had no business affording. The thought made my stomach churn, but I kept my face calm, my voice steady. "I'd love that, baby," I said. "You let me know when you're ready." That night, I pulled out the folder from under my mattress and spread the bank statements across my bed. The numbers stared back at me, cold and undeniable. I traced my finger over the charges, each one a betrayal. Atlanta, Savannah, Montgomery, Pensacola, and now a deposit for a condo. I closed my eyes, pressing my hands to my face, and whispered a prayer for strength. I didn't want to believe it, but the truth was clawing its way to the surface. The next morning, I drove to the bank, my hands gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. Brenda met me in her office, her face kind but serious. "We've flagged the charges, Ms. Dorothy," she said, sliding a form across the desk. "You sure you don't want to name the person using the card?" I hesitated, my pen hovering over the paper. Tiana's face flashed in my mind, her laugh, her tears, the way she'd clung to me after her breakup. But then I saw the purse, the card, the lies piling up like storm clouds. "Not yet," I said finally, "but I want the account locked tight. Nobody uses it but me." Brenda nodded, her eyes soft with understanding. "We'll take care of it. You call me if you need anything. Here?" I thanked her and left, the folder of statements tucked under my arm. When I got home, Tiana was on the phone again, her voice low and urgent, pacing the backyard. I watched her through the window, her gestures sharp, her face tense. Who was she talking to? What was she planning? The questions gnawed at me, each one tightening the knot in my gut. Over the next week, Tiana's excitement about the condo grew. She'd leave real estate brochures on the table, circling photos of stainless steel appliances and marble countertops. "This is it, Big Mama," she said one night, her voice bright as she showed me a picture of a balcony overlooking the city. "I'm signing the lease tomorrow. You gotta come see it soon." I smiled, my heart heavy. "I will, baby," I said. But my mind was elsewhere, piecing together the puzzle. The deposit, the charges, the late-night calls. It all pointed to one thing. Tiana wasn't just using my card. She was building a whole new life with it, one she thought I'd never suspect. That night, I sat in my recliner, the house dark except for the glow of the TV. I thought about confronting her, about laying out the statements and demanding the truth. But something told me to wait. Tiana was slipping, her lies growing bolder, and I had a feeling she'd trip over them soon enough. I just had to be patient and ready. As I drifted to sleep, the folder of evidence tucked safely away, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was bigger than Tiana, bigger than a stolen credit card. There was something else going on, something she wasn't telling me. And when the truth came out, I knew it would change everything. What would you do if someone you love was stealing from you, but kept lying to your face? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. The days after Tiana's condo talk felt like walking on a tightrope. I kept my smile in place, nodding along as she rambled about her new life, but my mind was a storm of questions. Who was she talking to on those late-night calls? How deep did her lies run? The folder of bank statements under my mattress grew thicker, each page a reminder of the betrayal I couldn't ignore. Tiana's excitement was a mask, and I was done letting it fool me. I'd raised her to be better, but she'd crossed a line, and I wasn't about to let her build a castle with my stolen money. One morning, while Tiana was out, I sat at the dining table with a cup of coffee gone cold, staring at the real estate brochure she'd left behind. The condo's address was printed in bold, Harbor View Estates, Mobile, Alabama. I grabbed my phone, my fingers steady, despite the ache in my chest, and dialed the leasing office. The woman who answered had a clipped, professional tone. "Harbor View Estates, how can I assist you?" "This is Dorothy Mae," I said, my voice firm. "I'm calling about my granddaughter, Tiana Johnson. I'm listed as her co-signer for the condo she's leasing." It was a gamble. She hadn't listed me, of course, but I'd learned a thing or two about bluffing from years of playing spades with Earl. The woman paused, papers rustling in the background. "Let me pull up her file. One moment." My heart thudded as I waited, praying she wouldn't ask for proof I didn't have. "Yes, I see her application. What's the issue, ma'am?" "I'm withdrawing my support," I said, keeping my tone even. "There's been some financial misrepresentation on her part. I've got documentation, bank statements, fraud reports, showing unauthorized use of my credit card for her deposit." I leaned forward, my voice dropping. "I'm faxing it all over today. I can't be tied to this lease." The woman's tone softened, like she'd heard this kind of story before. "I understand, Ms. May. Send us the documents, and we'll review the application. We take fraud seriously." I thanked her, hung up, and drove to the library, where I faxed every piece of evidence. The fraud report from Brenda at the bank, the printed statements, and a typed letter explaining how my card was used without my consent. My hands shook as I fed the pages into the machine, but I felt a strange calm settle over me. This wasn't revenge, it was justice. Tiana had made her choices, and now she'd face the consequences. 2 days later, Tiana came home, her face like a thundercloud. She slammed the front door so hard, the picture frames rattled on the wall. I was in the living room, folding laundry, the TV humming low with a rerun of Sanford and Son. She stormed in, her eyes blazing, her phone clutched in her hand like a weapon. "Big Mama, why would you ruin this for me?" she shouted, her voice cracking. "They called me today, said my application was denied, said the co-signer backed out. What did you do?" Her curls were wild, her chest heaving. And for a moment, I saw the little girl who'd throw tantrums when she didn't get her way. But this wasn't a tantrum over a toy. This was my life she'd toyed with. I set down the towel I was folding, my hands steady as I met her gaze. "Sweetheart," I said, calm as ever, "you don't build dreams on someone else's back." Her mouth dropped open, like I'd slapped her. "What are you talking about? I didn't." "Don't." I cut her off, my voice sharp now. "I found my card in your purse, Tiana. I saw the charges. Atlanta, Savannah, Montgomery, Pensacola, thousands of dollars. You think I'm too old to notice, too foolish to care." I stood, stepping closer, my heart pounding, but my resolve like iron. "I raised you, girl. I trusted you, and you lied to my face." Tiana's eyes darted, searching for an excuse, but none came. "Big Mama, I was gonna pay you back, I swear. I just needed a start, you know? I was gonna make it right." Her voice broke, tears welling, but I wasn't swayed. I'd seen those tears before, when she'd broken my favorite vase as a kid, and swore it was an accident. "You had no right," I said, my voice low, trembling with hurt. "That money was mine, Tiana. My savings, my security. You took it and spun me a story about a job and a condo, like I wouldn't figure it out." She backed up, shaking her head, her hands raised like she could push the truth away. "You don't get it. I needed this. You always had everything together. Big Mama, house, family, all of it. I got nothing. This was my chance." "Your chance?" I snapped, my patience fraying. "You think stealing from your own blood is a chance. You think lying to the woman who raised you is a dream." I pointed to the door, my voice steady now. "You need to figure out what kind of woman you want to be, Tiana, but you won't do it under my roof." Her face crumpled, but the anger flared back just as quick. "Fine," she shouted, grabbing her purse from the couch. "You want to play like that? I'm gone." She stormed to her room, the door slamming behind her. I heard drawers yanking open, clothes rustling, and then her voice, sharp and muffled, on the phone. "Yeah, come get me, now." I sank back into my chair, my hands trembling now that the fight was done. The house felt too big, too quiet, as I listened to her tear through her room. Half an hour later, a car horn blared outside. Tiana stomped out, a duffel bag slung over her shoulder, her eyes avoiding mine. The room was a mess. clothes strewn across the floor, empty shopping bags spilling from the closet, her red purse abandoned on the bed. She didn't say a word as she walked out, the door slamming behind her. I sat there, staring at the mess she'd left, my heart heavy but my conscience clear. The TV flickered, Fred Sanford's laugh cutting through the silence, but it didn't touch the ache in my chest. I thought about the Tiana I'd known, the one who'd cling to my hand at the fair, who'd sing hymns with me in church. Was she still in there, buried under the lies? Or had I lost her for good? Outside, the car peeled away, tires screeching. I didn't get up to look. Instead, I pulled out Earl's Bible from under the mattress, my fingers tracing the worn leather. I didn't open it, not yet. I just held it, letting the weight ground me. Tiana was gone, but this wasn't the end. I knew her too well. She'd come back, one way or another, with more lies, or maybe, just maybe, the truth. And when she did, I'd be ready. The days after Tiana stormed out felt like a house too big for one person. Her room stayed untouched, a mess of clothes and shopping bags, a silent reminder of the rift between us. I'd sit in my recliner, Earl's Bible in my lap, replaying her words, "You want to play like that, I'm gone," and wondering if I'd pushed too hard or not hard enough. The ache in my chest didn't fade, but I kept moving, tending my azaleas, cooking for one, praying for clarity. I didn't hear from Tiana, not a call, not a text. The silence was loud, but I held firm. I'd done what was right, even if it hurt. 3 weeks later, a letter arrived, the kind that makes your stomach drop before you even open it. The envelope was crisp, official, from a credit recovery agency in Birmingham. I sat at the dining table, the one with Earl's initials carved in the corner, and slid it open with a butter knife. The words hit me like a slap. Tiana had taken out a $5,000 personal loan in my name, using my social security number, my address, my everything. This wasn't just a credit card slip-up. This was identity theft, cold and calculated. My hands shook as I read the balance, the late fees already piling up. I thought I'd known the depth of her betrayal, but this was a new wound, raw and deep. I didn't cry, not yet. Instead, I called Brenda at the bank, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "Ms. Dorothy, this is serious," she said, her tone grave. "You need to file a police report. We can dispute the loan, but you've got to act fast." I thanked her, hung up, and drove to the mobile police station, the folder of bank statements tucked under my arm, like armor. The officer, a young man with kind eyes, took my statement as I laid out the truth. My granddaughter, my own blood, had stolen not just my money but my name. "Ms. Mae will handle it," he said, jotting notes. "With your evidence, we can flag this as fraud and get the loan shut down. But you understand, this could mean charges for her." I nodded, my throat tight. "Do what you gotta do." I loved Tiana, but love didn't mean letting her walk over me. By the time I got home, the loan was frozen, the agency notified, and a weight lifted, even if just a little. But the hurt lingered, sharp as ever. A week later, my phone rang. Tiana's name flashed on the screen, and my heart stuttered. I answered, bracing myself. "Big Mama." Her voice was small, shaky, not the defiant girl who'd stormed out. They called me about the loan. Said I could face jail time." I stayed silent, letting her words hang. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she went on, her voice cracking. I needed help, and I didn't know how to ask. "I'm sorry, Big Mama. I know I messed up. You always said I'd learn the hard way," she added, barely a whisper. "And I meant it," I replied, my voice calm but firm. "But I still love you, Tiana. I just won't let you walk all over me." I paused, letting the words sink in. "You've got a choice now. Take the deal they're offering. Pay restitution, go to those financial classes, or face the consequences. But don't call me looking for a bailout." She sniffled, and I could picture her, head bowed, curls falling over her face. "I'll take the deal," she said finally. "I don't want to lose you, Big Mama." "You haven't lost me," I said, softer now. "But you've got to earn my trust back. That's on you." When I hung up, I felt a flicker of hope, but it was fragile, like a candle in the wind. Tiana had a long road ahead, and so did I. Months passed, slow and quiet. Tiana sent a letter one day, handwritten. The paper creased, like she'd held it too long. "Dear Big Mama," it began. "I know I hurt you, and I'll never forgive myself for it. I'm in the classes now, learning how to manage money, how to be better. I don't expect you to trust me yet, but I'm trying. I love you." I read it twice, my eyes stinging, then tucked it into Earl's Bible. Forgiveness wasn't easy, but it was in me, rooted deep, like the azaleas out front. I wrote her back, short and simple. "I forgive you, Tiana, but no more lies. No keys to my house, no access to my bank. You want to be family, you show me with actions, not words." I didn't hear from her again right away, but I didn't need to. I'd set my boundaries, and for the first time in months, I felt steady, like the ground beneath me was solid again. I started looking outward, beyond my own pain. One Sunday, after church, Sister Evelyn, who ran the community center, asked if I'd share my story at a workshop for seniors. "Folks need to hear it, Dorothy," she said. "You've got wisdom to give." So I did. The first workshop was small, just a dozen folks in folding chairs, their faces lined with years and worries. I stood at the front, my folder of statements in hand, and told them everything. How Tiana took my card, my identity, my trust. I didn't sugarcoat it. "Don't confuse love with foolishness," I said, my voice clear. "The Lord gave you a heart and a backbone. Use both." They nodded, some taking notes, others sharing their own stories of scams and betrayal. By the end, I felt lighter, like I'd turned my hurt into something useful. The workshops grew, word spreading through churches and community boards. Every Tuesday, I'd stand in that room, teaching folks how to check their statements, freeze their accounts, protect their names. I'd show them my folder, now worn at the edges, and tell them about Tiana, not to shame her, but to show that even family can break your trust, and you've got to be ready. Each session ended with the same advice: love hard, but love smart. Ain't nobody worth losing your peace. One evening, as I packed up my notes, a woman lingered, her hands clutching a purse like it held her whole life. "Ms. Dorothy," she said, her voice low, "my son's been taking money too. I didn't know what to do till I heard you." I hugged her, feeling the weight of her story, and gave her Brenda's number at the bank. That's when I knew this was bigger than me, bigger than Tiana. It was a calling. Tiana's still out there, working through her classes, paying back what she owes. I get updates sometimes, short texts or calls, and I can hear the change in her voice. Slower, humbler. I don't know if she'll ever be the girl I remember, but I pray for her every night, asking God to guide her back to herself. As for me, I'm not the same Dorothy Mae who opened her door to Tiana 6 months ago. I'm stronger, sharper, and I've got a purpose now. My heart's still big, but my backbone's bigger, and I'll never let anyone, not even family, steal that from me again. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you raised like your own? What did you do? Drop your story in the comments. Someone out there might need your wisdom today. If this story stirred something in your spirit, click that subscribe button. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded. You can love folks from a distance and still protect your peace. Let me know where you're watching from.